regardless of what happens, which also is controversial, that there were some passages in the book where he's like, oh, if your husband, is, granted, he did say if he's abusive to not deal with that sort of thing, but there were still some examples that seemed borderline abusive that he was like, still respect him anyway, which is, as a woman, hard to like read, and think about, because that can be a very like dangerous situation for a woman to be in. And even if she is respecting him and he continues to do it, that could be, it's not going to fix everything. It might, the way he's saying it might, but also at that point, like if you're being abused, it's really hard to respect somebody who's doing that to you.
Yeah, for sure.
So...
yeah, so there's some complications around that. I think it's worth talking about the respect thing before we get into some of that, because one, it's a very confusing topic, especially this idea of unconditional respect.
Right.
And then also a lot of people got upset about some of the things you said about respect too, which I've got some statements about that. But the idea of unconditional respect is this idea that you respect, let's say for a woman, respect a man because he's your husband, because you chose him, and he doesn't have to earn that respect. He just gets that respect, just like you as a woman don't feel like you have to earn your love. Like that would be weird if you're just like, okay, well, I don't love you today because you didn't earn it. Like you got to earn this love. So that's the kind of idea behind it, is that respect should also be unconditional, which again, it seems like a very crazy concept until you really think about it. And what I would say about it, honestly, because we were talking about this earlier, because a lot of people got upset when you said that women need to respect their husbands, and if you chose him and you don't respect him, that's on you. Like you're
you don't respect your own judgment.
Yeah, and they're like, a lot of people commented, even men commented, respect has to be earned.
Right.
And I've dealt with this a lot. I gave a whole speech about this at one point at a convention I was at. And my stance on it is that respect does not have to be earned, not by anybody. That you, as a decent human being, should just respect everybody by default. And you should only respect people and not ever even take away the respect from people. You should take yourself away from the people. So
have boundaries.
I'm never going to allow someone, as far as it's within my control, to make me into a person that disrespects people. Right. No matter how they treat me, if they can be disrespectful to me all they want, but I'm not going to respond to them in a disrespectful way. I'm still going to pay them respect, treat them in a respectful way, but I may also excuse myself from their life or excuse them from my life. I'm not going to deal with them. I'll cut them out. I have boundaries. But there's no reason why that you should ever be disrespectful to anyone. It doesn't make sense as a concept. There's no justification to treat someone in a disrespectful way. So I think to me that kind of clears up the whole thing, is because you should just be respectful, period.
Right.
And not because someone earned it or they have to prove something. And like I said, no one likes to have to, especially in a marriage where you're supposed to be one and you're supposed to unconditionally love each other. You expect that you don't have to do something in order, because, and a lot of people have the whole issue that they have psychologically is that they feel like they have to do something to be good enough. And you don't want to.
Well, that comes from a lot of reasons.
Right.
But yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. I think you should respect people. And like you said, even if they lose your respect, that doesn't mean you have to act disrespectful.
Right.
That just means removing yourself from that person.
Right.
Same with like trust, because people also say trust is earned,
right,
and things like that.
Right.
But really, you should trust people until they give you a reason not to, until they do something, they lie to you or something like that.
Right.
And then again, you don't lie to them or, try to get even.
Right.
You just either don't continue to have a relationship with them or don't tell them things that they lied about or whatever you choose to do. But like you said, you don't allow it to have people put you down on a lower level.
Right.
you should still maintain your morals and your standards and how you operate.
Right.
Regardless of what other people do. And like you said, like you wouldn't meet somebody for the first time and be like sizing them up, be like, okay, well, let's see what they do so I can respect them.
Right. Yeah.
Like you're not like waiting for the thing or like tell them, hey, go do this so I can respect you or something like that. Like, you know, and we're all human. We make mistakes and, you know, like I mentioned before in some of the other things that a lot of times women stop respecting their husband, not because they've even done something disrespectful.
Right.
It's usually because he stopped showing her love, like this book talks about, right?
Exactly.
Like everybody makes mistakes
Yeah.
because if women are trying to say, oh, well, I lost respect for him because he did something for me to lose respect.
Right.
You've never done anything to lose respect, or you've never yelled at him and he took away the love for you. Like you can't do that to another person.
Right.
Like you can't have somebody make a mistake, your husband make a mistake, and then be like, oh, well, now I don't respect you.
Right.
And take it away.
Yeah.
Whereas he could be like, oh, well, remember that time you told me you hated my guts? Well, now I don't love you anymore. Like that would never be acceptable behavior. Right. I can see where it all goes astray, like you said, on the crazy cycle, because, you know, she's not feeling loved. So she's disrespectful, says disrespectful things, and he's feeling disrespected. So he's being unloving. Yeah. I can totally see where that comes into play. But nowhere, especially if you're married, does taking these things away as like a punishment bring you closer together.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not a motivator, and it will separate you further. And that's where it builds that bitterness, right?
And the resentment.
And I was talking about, I think I talked about this on one of our episodes too, but I think it's worth repeating, is I compare it to tooth decay, right? That's how, because people are always like, how does the honeymoon phase end? Well, I'll tell you exactly how it ends. The same way your teeth rot, which is that what ends up happening is that you have arguments, you have fights, you have these disagreements, and it's like plaque building up on your teeth. And if you don't clean that plaque off of your relationship, off your teeth, go to the dentist, brush your teeth, whatever, what's going to happen is that it's going to end up developing tooth decay. And so that plaque in a relationship looks like bitterness. It looks like resentment. It becomes resentment. And then that creates a wedge between you. And so the more that a woman feels like she's been mistreated, she hasn't been loved or accepted for who she is, that's unconditional love, is accepting someone for who they are, right? The more that she starts to build up that resentment, that plaque, and then she's disrespecting the man because she doesn't feel loved. And so he starts to build up that resentment, and he's like, she's always saying stuff to me that is so disrespectful or acting in a disrespectful way. And they may be being cordial to each other, but just like in your teeth, where the cavity, you need to do the x-ray to see it because it's actually rotting underneath the enamel. Like there's a rot underneath there. The same thing happens in a relationship. Underneath all that, you got rot. Your teeth are rotting out.
Can you tell that John's gone to the dentist recently? He's like, the x-ray shows under the enamel.
But that's
no, you're
how
right.
It happens. And it comes from a lack of love and respect, of not respecting those things. So
right. Well, and the people got mad because, like you said, I said you should respect your husband or the man that you're with. And they're like, oh, well, just because he's a man, I should respect him. You should, like we talked about, you should respect a human being, regardless of if it's a man or a woman, regardless. And even if they do something disrespectful, you should still act respectful and have boundaries and separate yourself if that's what you choose to do. And what I also mentioned in one of the other videos that I did off of that video was that if you meet a man and he does something and you lost respect and, you know, you don't trust him anymore or whatever, you should not marry him. You should not continue the relationship. It's your responsibility, if you no longer respect the man you're with, to leave. I'm not saying that if you're married, because the thing is, that is a whole nother can of worms involving commitment and, you know, getting back to where you were, because obviously you respected him to get married with him. I'm saying if you're dating and you lost respect for this guy and you just can't get it back, no matter what or whatever, don't marry him.
Yeah, and I got to read actually something on the TikTok comment, because this one, it was really interesting. I thought, oh, I got your phone.
But I also said, which if you are married and you disrespect, or like you don't have respect for your husband, then you need to try everything you can to gain that respect back and figure it out. And there's another book that I'm sure we'll do a whole nother episode on called The Surrendered Wife, which I recommended. And it's written by a feminist woman on how to kind of give up the control that a lot of women take over when they don't respect their husbands in their relationship, and give that back to him. And then by him taking that over and showing that he can handle these things and do these things that you were kind of taking over and hogging and micromanaging or whatever, and being the more masculine one, allowing him to take those over again, then you gain respect back for your husband.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And you realize that you had more involvement in losing the respect from him than you even realized that you had. Because that's what women don't realize too, is a lot of times you are part of the reason you lost respect for him.
Right. Well, and
they'll be mad about that too, but
I know, but
it's like, if you are emotionally reactive and are the type of woman where you just do whatever you want and say whatever you want when you're upset, but then expect all the things that you said to not mean anything when you guys make up, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And a man's still going to feel disrespected even if you make up, because that hurts. Yeah. Regardless of who you are, it hurts to hear your partner, the person you love, the person you marry, say mean and hurtful and disrespectful things to you, and then try to also be like, well, I was upset. It didn't matter. Better than